What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the number one show in sports and entertainment, Earl Knows It All. I'm your host, Earl Hill, and this weekend, man, we had some great football that went on up in Colorado, Boulder. You had a rivalry that none of us even knew about take place, and it was a pretty good game. In the NFL, you got some teams that are surprise 2-0 teams. My old team, the Falcons. Here's looking at you, Desmond Ridder and Arthur Smith. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints just won their game. They're all 2-0. And, of course, your regular usual suspects like the Eagles and the 49ers and, hey, even the Cowboys are doing well. Then you got some teams that are 0-2. We'll get into those as well. Is it over for them? Joe Burrow, highest paid player in NFL history. He re-aggravated his calf. What does this mean for the Bengals? Will they be able to survive that? We'll also get into who I think are the teams that look for real right now and who are phonies, man? Who's phony? Who's fake? That's the kind of stuff that we hate, right? And last but not least, like I said, if you've been following my pick six each Friday, you're in the money, man. We had another great week. We had a bad beat that happened, but even in that, we still made you a lot of money. All that and more today on Earl Knows It All. You guys lock in, go tell a friend. We got it going right now. Let's get it. Welcome back to Earl Knows It All, and I got to ask you guys a huge favor. Before you do anything, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for this video and for my channel, man. We got a lot of great sports and entertainment, pop culture information for you guys, and it's just great stuff, man. We're giving you the best of both worlds, all worlds. So make sure you hit that like button. It costs you nothing. If you're a hater, you know, that's all you are because you don't want to hit the like button. It's likable. It's very likable. I'm a likable guy, man. But we'll get right into what our show topics are for today. First on our docket, we got Coach Prime, my guy, Dion. In Colorado, they pull out a 2 overtime victory on Saturday night. Everyone was up. I'm on the East Coast, so if you were watching this whole game, you were up till, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning watching a Colorado game. Now, I don't think anybody in the history of the world has ever done that, but Coach Prime is a very powerful guy, man. He had a big, eventful day. Both Fox and ESPN were in the building. They were there. Game day, I think is what it's called for ESPN, and of course, Big Fox Noon or whoever you want to call it. We're also there. Dion was on both sets. He had Lil Wayne over on Fox performing. He had The Rock there giving shouts out and, pumping up the team, doing the pregame speech. And Mama Prime, of course, was in the building as well due to some controversy that happened during the week. Colorado State's coach, Jay Norvell, a guy who most of us had probably never heard of before he made comments about Dion and being raised properly and wearing sunglasses and hats in interviews. He took a shot, a thinly veiled shot at Deion Sanders, of course, saying that he takes his glasses off and he takes his hat off when he's talking to adults. Deion, of course, got wind of it, and Deion, ever the master marketer, was able to capitalize on this. In 2 days, he sold $1.2 million worth of sunglasses. You got to love Coach Prime, man. He knows how to take whatever you try to make negative for him, and he's going to spin it around, and it's going to make it work. And he is a winner. As like I said, they drove down the field and won that game 43, to 35, I think was the final score in the game. And Shedeur, they got the ball on the 2-yard line down by 8 points. And Shedeur Sanders drove them down the field, and he continues his great performance and keeping his name in the Heisman candidacy, as well as he drove them down the field 98 yards to tie the ball game and send it to overtime. And like I said, they won that game in a 2 overtime game. And also in this game, notable, Travis Hunter, the star two-way player, former number 1 overall player in the recruiting class 2 years ago, was knocked out of the game after a cheap shot by, we're just going to call him number 11. He doesn't deserve to have his name said, man, for Colorado State. And the gentleman actually wound up staying in the game. Travis Hunter, of course, left the game, did go to the hospital. They did x-rays. And unfortunately for all of us and people who've become fans of this Colorado team, we probably won't see Travis Hunter for the next couple weeks. And that is a big deal because this is where we talk about the real and the fake. If a team is for real, we're about to start kind of seeing this in conference play now. Colorado takes on Oregon, the number 13 team in the country. This is going to be their toughest test yet, and they are probably without their best player, Travis Hunter. I think this probably hurts them a little bit more on defense, more so on the offense, because Shedeur has been able to kind of move the ball around. They brought in, I think his name was Mikey Johnson, who made some big catches late in that game after Travis Hunter got knocked out, a guy who was one of the holdovers from that Colorado team. A lot of those guys left, and Deion told them to go into the transfer portal, but this kid stayed on the team, made some big plays on that last drive, made a big touchdown to send the game to overtime as well. So I think they'll be okay on offense, and they're going to have a lot of offense because Oregon can put up some points as well. And like we said, this is their first test, but man, listen, I have drunk the Kool-Aid. I am fully devoted as a Colorado Buffalo fan until, of course, Deion leaves. You see all the memes. I believe in Coach Prime, man. And, he wears that I believe on his hat, and he tells his team, hey, I believe. And I believe in him if nobody else does. And I think everybody else does too. Mark Jones, who was calling the game, said it looked like the BET Awards on the sideline. My wife got a chuckle. I don't think she got a chuckle out of that. She was like, who is this guy? But that's what Mark Jones does, though, man. So he's a good announcer. I like Mark Jones. But they have Offset on the sideline. You got Lil Wayne bringing them out like it's a concert before the game, performing a song in the stadium as the team runs out. Like, Deion Sanders he's prime time, man, for real. That is the perfect, if ever a nickname fit someone, it is Deion. He's prime time. You could call him box office, whatever you want to call him. Whatever he does, he's successful at it, man. And like I said, the odds, I'm sure, are going to say that Oregon should win this game. They're down Travis Hunter, but some people have to see it to believe it. I believe it before I've seen it. So I believe in Deion, man. I believe they're going to handle their business. And like I said, man, we'll see what happens with this game. Oregon's going to be a tough team. After that, they get USC as well. Caleb Williams, probably the best player in the country, definitely the presumptive number 1 overall pick as well. So it'll be some tough tasks coming up for them, and they get to the tough part of their schedule. But the other part of that is if they handle their business in these 2 games, who would have thought this? They could possibly be in the national championship conversation after not even a season. Like, we're 3 games in right now. So if that happens, if they can handle these 2 games, man, the sky's the limit. Like, Coach Prime, they asked him also if he thought he had a 60-minute interview. This is part of the big Prime weekend that he had. It's not just Amazon Prime, it's Coach Prime as well. They had him on 60 Minutes. And a lot of you kids probably don't even know what 60 Minutes is, but it used to be a pretty big deal back in the day. And they asked him, who is the best coach of college football? And his response was, how you going to ask me that? I'm going to say it's me. That's how I'm built. It has to be me. I'm the best coach of college football. Now, he did also give shots out and props to Nick Saban and said that he's learned a lot from Nick Saban when they, have those commercials they shoot for Affleck. He's always picking Nick Saban's brain. And he said, hey, Nick Saban's accomplishments are something that he definitely looks up to, and he wants to get to that point. So he did pay proper respect to Nick Saban as being one of the greatest coaches of all time in sports, period. But hey, you got to love Coach Prime, man. Swag is real. He's going to tell you, if you ask him who the best is, it's me, man. And I got the best team, and we're going to go handle our business. So we'll look forward to seeing what they do in that game against Oregon this weekend. If you stay tuned later on the week, I'll give you my preview of my top 5 college games. We've been picking good ones, man. The games to watch. If you watch, you're going to have a fun-filled football weekend if you watch. We picked right with the Florida State versus the Boston College game. Florida State escaped. We picked right with Georgia versus South Carolina. I told you, I'm a Bulldog fan, 2-time champs. I think we're going to make it 3 in a row. But South Carolina is always a tough game. Georgia was down 14-3. They fought back, won that game, and did what champions do. Like we said, we just picked the winners, man. So if you guys are watching, make sure you always, like I said, watch, turn on your notifications so you can get me on Fridays when I have that video put up and let you know which games you should watch so you can make sure you have the best college football weekend that you can have. Moving right along in the NFL, we are 2 weeks in now. We're starting to see how this season may shape out. Of course, it's a long year, 17 games, but there have been some surprise teams that are 2-0 at this juncture that maybe we didn't think would be 2-0. I got to start with the Atlanta Falcons. You know I do, man. They are 2-0 by the hairs of their chinny chin chin, right? If you watch my show, Cover 2 with B-Woo, Earl Knows It All, we gave you the positivity of Desmond Ridder having a decent second half or fourth quarter of that game to lead them to a victory. And we kept it positive. But I'll say this. Some of these 2-0 teams that we have, the Commanders, the Washington Commanders are 2-0, the Atlanta Falcons, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do any of these teams really have staying power? Now, I picked the New Orleans Saints. I can't even say that name without, it's just, can't stand those guys. I picked them to win the division, though, and they're 2-0, so I even think looking at them in these two games, though, their offense has not been that great. Derek Carr, I thought, would be the best quarterback in that division in the NFC South, and he has not been. The best quarterback in that division, much to my surprise, has been Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I told you last week I picked Tampa Bay to cover against the Vikings. They wound up winning that game outright. I told you I didn't really trust Todd Bowles and I didn't trust Baker Mayfield, but they are looking like they may be legitimate. And the one thing that I will say is they have a dominant player who has been great for the past 9 seasons or 8 seasons, and he's going into his 9th year, Mike Evans. A lot of talk about Mike Evans being traded or why they won't give him an extension. He came out and dominated on Sunday, man, against the Bears, and he's showing him and Baker seem to have a very good connection. I think I saw a stat that said they were 4 for 4 on passes over 10 yards. Baker and Mike Evans for, I think it was 151 yards and a touchdown in that game. And overall, when blitzes come, he's, I think, 9 for 11 going to Mike Evans, and it's over 180 yards and a touchdown as well. So those guys have a very, very good connection. And Baker Mayfield, like I said, may be the best quarterback in this division. Now, as far as these surprise 2-0 teams, I told you we got the Washington Commanders who snatched victory from the jaws of defeat against the lowly Denver Broncos to move to 2-0. They beat Arizona. They beat Denver. Those are possibly the 2 worst teams in the NFL. And I think the Commanders are probably the worst 2-0 team. I don't see them staying the course with this 2-0 record that they have and continuing on into a playoff run because they're in the division with, I would say, arguably at least 2 of the 3 best teams in the NFC. The Cowboys and the Eagles. I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. They are my team now. Fly, Eagles, fly. But the Washington Commanders, I don't think they're a legit team. I think they will fall apart. I think you'll see them. Like I said, they probably should be 0-2. They came back and beat the Cardinals, came back and beat the Broncos. So I don't foresee them staying the course. I think the Saints will win the division. So I don't know if I'd say they were for real. I'll say this. The NFC South is a tough division to say, man. You got 3 2-0 teams in that division, just like you do NFC East. I'm going to reserve judgment on the NFC South. Tampa Bay could be the best team because they got a lot of good defense, but you can't trust Baker Mayfield. You obviously can't trust Derek Carr, in my opinion. They're sneaking by with victories over Tennessee and Carolina teams. I think they probably should have handled it a little bit easier. And the Falcons don't have a quarterback. Desmond Ridder is 2-0. People say they like what he's doing. It's not about the stats, and he actually has decent stats as far as his efficiency, but he just, from watching him, the eye test, doesn't look like a legit quarterback to me, not a starting quarterback that's going to take a team anywhere. So which one of these teams can you trust? I don't trust any of them, but somebody has to win the division. So I'll say to be continued on if any of those teams are for real. Now, in my heart, although I have left the Falcons alone, I do want to see them do well, man. So I would say hopefully, all those pieces around Desmond Ridder will allow them to be for real, but who knows, man. Tampa Bay probably will continue to dominate this division like they have the past couple years. Our surprise 0-2 teams. Now, some of these teams are a surprise. The Vikings I picked to win the NFC North. Now, they were a team that last year snuck by, winning a lot of games that were close that they shouldn't have won. Their point differential was actually, they gave up more points than they scored. So but they were 13-4, and they were probably the worst 13-win team in the history of the NFL. So they play in a division, however, that has Aaron Rodgers used to be in it, but now he's not. So you got Jordan Love, you got Justin Fields, who, I love Justin Fields. I want him to do well, but it's not looking good for him right now. And then your other quarterback in that division is Jared Goff, who nobody really has a lot of faith in, but maybe the Lions are the best team. They don't really have a defense or haven't had a defense previously, but they're kind of up and down team too. And they're the Detroit Lions. You can't trust the Detroit Lions. So, I mean, you would think the Vikings would be the team to beat, I guess, but right now, I'm not really surprised, having kind of seen what their season was. I should have known better. I know it all. Should have known not to put my faith in Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Other 0-2 teams, the Chargers. I told you, if you watch NFL matchup that I put out last week, whatever you do, don't trust the Chargers. As long as Brandon Staley is the head coach, I don't ever try to pick them. I don't bet on them, because they're just they're like the quintessential 8-8, or now 8-9, or 9-18. Like, they win games they probably shouldn't win. They lose games they shouldn't lose. They're up by 20 points and they lose those games. They come back and win games. They're just a team that has no consistency. They're consistently inconsistent. So them being 0-2, they have scored 58 points. They're the first team in the history of the NFL to score over 50 points, have 0 turnovers, and start the season 0-2. This is unreal, because their head coach is a defensive coach. So you would think that he would be able to at least muster up some type of defense to stop somebody. And, when your quarterback like Justin Herbert, they paid a lot of money. He's one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. Led me to a fantasy championship last year, by the way. You would think these guys could put this together and say, hey, let's go ahead and handle our business and win these games. This is the perfect time, too, because Kansas City looks like a wounded team in that division. Las Vegas, they ain't got it. And the Broncos are probably one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL. So it's prime for the picking that division is, and they find themselves 0-2. So I think it's probably a wrap for the Chargers, but I say that, and like I said, they'll win games they shouldn't win, and they'll probably sneak into the playoffs. Who knows? And the last 0-2 team, the Bengals. The Bengals paid my guy Joe Burrow. I like Joe Burrow a lot, but he's looked very rough this first couple games. They lost to the Ravens. They lost 2 division games. Lose to the Browns in the opening week, lose to the Ravens. So those division games almost count for like 1.5 games, because you got to beat the other team, and then they got the tiebreaker if you don't beat them. So they're in a deep hole. They're in a division with half glass half full. They are in a division that teams are struggling in so far. The Steelers wound up winning a game against the Browns, which I predicted. We'll get to that later in my pick 6. And of course, the Ravens are the only team that's 2-0 right now. So they're 0-2, but they may not catch the Ravens as far as winning the division, but maybe they can try to sneak in to a wild card spot, possibly. The Bengals were a team I had as a wild card team. I picked the Ravens to win that division. I'm looking like a genius with that pick at the moment. So I'll say that the jury's still out on the Bengals, but they did say that Joe Burrow re-aggravated his calf injury that kept him out for all of preseason and training camp. So if Joe Burrow's hurt, even though he hasn't played well yet, I don't think there's a chance for him. You can cancel Christmas. It's a wrap on them too, and zip them up in plastic. I know last year they started 0-2 and they made the playoffs, but can't keep starting 0-2, getting behind and thinking you can just make a run. This may be the year that it catches them, man. Now, speaking of these teams that are 2-0 and 0-2, if you watch Cover 2 with B-Woo, Earl Knows It All, we put out a video yesterday. And in that video, prior to the Sunday night game, we recorded that prior to the Sunday night game, we said there weren't really a team in the AFC that we believed in as far as being, the legit contender. Well, after watching that game Sunday night, and I know they beat up on the lowly Patriots, I think we have to put the Dolphins maybe in that mix as far as being a team that could be the team to beat. You got the Dolphins, and like I said, the Ravens are also 2-0 out in the AFC. Now, I picked the Ravens to win the AFC, go to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with the Ravens because I don't trust the health of Tua still. But when he's healthy and you got Waddle and you got Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, they are a force to be reckoned with offensively. They're good for 24 points coming off the bus. So, even if they have a bad offensive game, they're going to give you points. They got Monster, who's a good running back as well. This team is dynamic, but you just got to worry about Tua's health. That's what scared me off picking them to win that division. I did have them as a wild card team, but they look like they could be the class of the AFC right now. Also, like I said, the Ravens with Lamar Jackson seem to be kind of getting their footing. They've had some injuries, though, so that makes me a little nervous with J.K. Dobbins being out, and now Odell Beckham Jr. is also out with an ankle injury. They say it's not too serious, but we'll keep you guys posted on that. And now I'm probably going to regret saying this. I held off saying this on cover 2 with B-Woo. Earl Knows It All. But the Cowboys look like the best team in the NFL. Now, I preface this by saying they are the Cowboys, and anything can happen. They usually find a way to blow the bag, fumble the ball, whatever other cliche you want to use. They're going to cowboy this thing and blow it maybe. But today, right now, after week 2, they're the best team in the NFL. And I got to give a major shout out to my pick for Defensive Player of the Year, Michael Parsons. Michael Parsons may be the best player in the NFL. He gives us reminiscences of one Mr. Lawrence Taylor, if you guys are old enough to remember that. Lawrence Taylor was one of the most forceful, dominant forces in the NFL on defense for the New York Giants back in the 80s and early 90s. And Michael Parsons, man, the way he was throwing around Jets players, and poor little Zach Wilson was running for his life and getting slung around the field. You saw the same thing with Daniel Jones a week before. This guy's a dominant player, man. Michael Parsons, I think with that defense, can lead this team maybe to the promised land, man. Cowboys, I may be drinking the Kool-Aid. Now, I know I'm an Eagles fan, and it's sacrilegious to say, hey, Cowboys are a good team, but they look like the best team right now. The Eagles are 2-0. They've won some games. 49ers struggled a little bit with the Rams in that game. That was a tight, hard-fought game. Plus, like I told you, I have no love for the boy Genius Shanahan, so I'll never pick them to do anything. I only want bad things to happen to the 49ers. But the Cowboys, man, they look legit. Dak is not turning the ball over. He made one mistake in that game against the Jets. He almost threw a pick to Sauce Gardner. And after that, and Mike McCarthy said, we're not throwing the ball over there to Sauce Gardner at all. We'll move CeeDee Lamb around and get him the ball another way. So I think it's some smart play calling from McCarthy, who's taking over that role since Kellen Moore is no longer there. And if you're going to, I respect what Mike McCarthy's doing. If you're going to go down, if people are thinking you're going to lose your job, man, go down fighting. Say, I'm going to take over the play calling role, and I'm going to make sure that if I go out, I'm going out my way. He seems to be doing a great job. They pound the ball, run the ball well against a great Jets defense. And Cowboys, they look like a legitimate title contender. I may regret saying this, but right now, as of week 2, I'm going to preface it by saying that the Cowboys are the best team in the NFL. We'll have more for you guys here on Earl Knows It All. Do me a favor, make sure you hit that like button. Also, subscribe and turn on your notifications. We'll be right back after this with the results of my pick 6. It must be the money, baby. We are in the money. If you're betting with your boy, you're making money. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. What's up? Welcome back to Earl Knows It All, and let's get right into the results from the pick 6. Now, like I said, man, week 1, we went 5-1. We made you a lot of money. If you're betting with us, bet at your own risk. But just know, I only picked the winners, man. And I picked 6 great games this past week, and we did pretty good, man. We had a 4-1-1 week this week. We pushed one of those games, and I'll start with that game, man. 4 seconds left on the clock. The score is 30-20. My hated 49ers. I told you in my last video, Shanahan, if you don't cover, I'm coming to see you. They're up 30-20 in this game. And for some reason, Sean McVay calls a timeout with 4 seconds left. I guess this can be said that they were going to kick the field goal with 4 seconds left and try to onside kick and get the ball back. But it takes 3 seconds to kick a field goal. So there's no way earthly possible that you're going to win this game. But they line up to kick a field goal anyway. The field goal is good, and the score is 30-23. We had that as a 7-point favorite for the 49ers, and they don't cover, they push. So, unfortunately, them the bad bets that happen sometimes, man, the bad beats. And, if you gamble, this is how this happens sometimes. You win some, you lose some. Sometimes they just screw you over and take your money from you when you had it in hand for no particular reason. Now, another game that I picked as well, we talked about this team, the Bengals, they're 0-2. After this loss, I told you that the Ravens would go into Cincinnati and win outright. They were 3-point underdogs. No problem with the cover there. They actually win by 3. And like I said, they would win that game outright. So you could have bet the money line on that as well as them to cover, and you would have made double your money. Put it in the parlay, whatever you want to do, tease it. I ain't going to say that I'm that great at the betting thing because I don't like losing money. So, but if you wanted to do all that stuff, you could have did that and made a lot more money. The one game that I did lose, and sometimes, you can drink the Kool-Aid, man. And I thought after the first drive that I was doing pretty good with this game because Jimmy Garoppolo of the Las Vegas Raiders drove right down the field, hit Devontae Adams for a touchdown. It's 7-0, and I'm like, I'm going to cover this game. This is going to be a back-and-forth game. They scored 3 more points in the game and lose the game 38-10. That was an 8-point spread. If you heard me last week, I said, it's no way the Bills will cover these 8 points. They doubled up, tripled up, whatever you want to call it. Instead of 8 points, they beat them by 28 points. So, hey, even players are wrong sometimes, man. I missed that one, but the rest of these games I picked were winners. The Colts, I had them at 1.5 points. They were getting 1.5 points. I told you in this game that the Colts would win outright as well. Not only would they cover, they would win outright. They did that. They take that game 31-20. Now, Anthony Richardson, the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, rookie quarterback, did lead that game with a concussion, but he got 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. I guess you could say he outdueled C.J. Stroud for the time that they were in the game, but the Colts handled their business. I even told you, even if Anthony Richardson is hurt, they got Gardner Minshew, and what did Gardner Minshew come in and do? He led them to victory. So Earl knows it all. It's not just a name. You guys may think this guy's just a blowhard. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Proof is in the pudding, baby. I told you exactly what was going to happen, and it happened. And our other game that we had, the Sunday night game, the Dolphins were given 2.5 to the Patriots. I told you that this would be a walk in the park. Tua is going to come in there, handle his business. If Tom Brady struggled with the Dolphins, what did you think Mr. Mac and Cheese, Mac Jones, was going to do? He was going to cheese it up and lose, right? That's exactly what he did. The Dolphins take care of business. They covered that one easily. And then on Monday night, our last game last night, I got to admit, I was a little nervous, but I heard a stat that made perfect sense to me. I don't understand why this line was what it was. It was very disrespectful. I understand the Steelers got beat by the 49ers, but I'll say regrettably, the 49ers are a good team, one of the best teams in the league. So that's why the Steelers look like that. They gave the Steelers 2.5 points at home against the Cleveland Browns. Now, if you know history, the Steelers never lose to Cleveland. And furthermore, the Steelers have won 20 straight home games on Monday night. Now, before I gave you this bet, I didn't know that information, but I knew they never lose to the Browns. So them getting 2.5 points, I told you they would win this one outright, and they did. They win that game by 3. And, it's 21 straight games at home on Monday night now. So it gives us a 4-1-1 week. We are now 9-2-1 on the year. We will continue to give you the money picks, baby. Bet with me, like I said, man. On Friday, we'll have our pick 6 for week 3. You guys make sure you tune into it and tell a friend. Share the wealth. I'm all about community here, man. It's no need to hog this information, man. Tell a friend, man. And as we always say, make sure you tell a friend, tell a hater, like, subscribe, turn on your notifications as well, because you don't want to miss this. Like, this is really making you money. So don't want to miss this information, man. We got the best picks every single week. We're going to make sure we give you that info. Now, I'll close with this precious gem, as I always do. Put your trust in God, because through him, all things are possible. You guys have another great day. May the source be with you.